This is the new American media.
All right, we're back with NBA scout and lifelong Cleveland sports fan Zak Baris. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. He's at ZBaris. That's ZBaris. Zak, earlier in the previous segment, I just pressed pause on the Cavaliers. It is time to panic, as you said. Let's just leave it at that, and we'll reconnect in a week or two, see how things are going there. But let's talk about something good. How about the Buckeyes, sitting at number 3, undefeated? Urban Meyer hasn't lost in two years. How do you see this shaking out? Is Florida State really a number 2 team? Do you think the Buckeyes can
I think Florida State's really good, but I think the ACC. I don't think the ACC is any better than the Big Ten. I think the ACC has one good team in Clemson. How much better are they really than Michigan State? I don't know. Michigan State, if they wouldn't have lost to Notre Dame, I think what needs to happen for Ohio State to get into that national title game is they need to blow out their next 3 opponents, being Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. I don't know which game is tomorrow. I'm sorry, I've just been out of town all weekend.
Illinois.
But okay, so it is Illinois, and so it's basically what they've been going at is they've been playing hard. They've been dominating the college football game over the past over the past couple of weeks, and they look great. And it's just a matter of time before, like I said, Oregon went down very few times. The last time there were 3 undefeated, I'm talking about real teams from legitimate conferences, were Oklahoma, USC, and Auburn.
Real teams, not the Boise State, not the...
I'm not talking, no Boise States, and it even sickens me that people think that Baylor should be above Ohio State.
Yeah,
I think Ohio State
crazy.
would cream Baylor.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's that kind of offense, like I said, the Oregon offense. When Oregon's never gone undefeated, there's a reason for it. That offense is great when you face bad defenses in the Pac-12. When you go and you face a tough defense, it is very tough to beat. Look what Ohio State did to Oregon in the Rose Bowl 3 years ago. They dismantled them.
Yeah, I was there. It was great.
They beat them. They beat them 28-19, and they had the ball at the 10-yard line to end the game. They would have been up 35-19. They crushed them.
Yeah, it was pretty back and forth for the first quarter and a half, and then they kind of started putting a little distance. It was a fun game.
The second half, Ohio State took it over. And I remember that game like it was yesterday. It didn't even, it wasn't even a big deal. Ohio State proved they were the better team, and that was with Jim Tressel, being very conservative.
Yeah, I mean this Buckeyes team, 8th in rushing, 5th in points, 8th in points allowed with only 17. I mean, we're putting up 48 and allowing 17. That's pretty solid. I was at that 52-34 game against Cal, that blowout. I mean, this is a good team. This is an Urban Meyer coach team worthy of national championship consideration. I don't know that Florida State is all that much better, but I don't think playing San Diego State, Buffalo, and Cal and Florida A&M is really going to enhance your chances to play in that title game. I mean,
it's not their fault. Don't forget, the schedule comes out 4 to 5 years in advance. When they scheduled Cal 4 years ago, Cal was a good program. They were a good team.
I'll give you Cal. But back, what do we talk? How far back do we have to go to get San Diego State when they were relevant? When Marshall Faulk was playing there in the early '90s, Buffalo, Florida A&M. I mean, those aren't.
But San Diego State's produced some decent teams over the past years. It's not like they've been a horrible football team. Florida A&M was a last-second schedule when Vanderbilt from the SEC decided to cancel the game. It didn't leave Ohio State with many options.
Well, that is fair enough. But I mean, are we just...
You cannot blame the schedule, for 4 or 5 years ago for out-of-conference games. It's not Ohio State's fault that the Big Ten stinks. It's not their fault. They're in a conference, it's still a big conference. Like I said, it's Michigan State. I fully expect Michigan State to be a top 10 football team in 3 weeks. If Michigan State can win out on their schedule, their defense is playing dominant. They have a dominant defense right now. Their offense is playing well, and what we need to do is have Michigan State blow out their next 3 opponents, and then have Ohio State crush them in the Big Ten title game by 30 or 40 points and make a statement.
Man, to win.
Kind of like what Ohio State did against Penn State. And I think Ohio State's going to beat Michigan by 30 to 40.
Michigan's not even ranked right now. Northwestern 16.
Urban Meyer is going to make a statement against Michigan. He's lost some recruits to Michigan over the past couple of years. Kyle Kalis, a couple of those guys. A guy like Jabril Peppers who's heading there. Just wait until Ohio State plays that game. I think it's going to be Ohio State's going to slug it out, and they're going to win that game by 30 or 40.
A massacre, you're saying? Well, you know what? I mean, they got some cupcakes coming up. Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, like you said, and then that championship game. It's interesting that Michigan State, one of the best teams in the conference, we don't even get to play them until that game. And we're assuming that we go undefeated, and so do they. But, I mean, is Alabama, they're pretty much a lock to go undefeated? And what about Florida State? Anything?
Alabama's no lock to go undefeated. They've got Auburn on their schedule. It's a top 10 team, in a couple weeks. And they have the SEC championship game. There's no lock they're going undefeated. Alabama doesn't play well in November usually. I was upset they beat LSU, but granted, I think Ohio State could beat LSU pretty badly too.
Well, I like our chances. Watching the Indians get knocked out of the playoffs and watching the Cavaliers struggling again. It is sure nice to look at something where you can go, 9-0 overall, 5-0 in the Big Ten, number 3 in the nation. That's all right. Finally something to hang our hat on as Cleveland sports fans over here. But, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, we could leave it there, or we could just do a quick hit on the Cleveland Browns if you're game.
I mean, we can do a quick hit on the Browns real quick. I've got a second. So
yeah, let me do this. And once again, I'm going to do the station identification break. But for anyone who has not followed Zak on Twitter yet, you need to do that. He's at Baris. That's ZBARIS. Create a new list for your Cleveland sports guru, or your sports list anyway. Check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Search The New American Media on Facebook with spaces in between, and like our page. On Twitter, we're at American_media_. Go ahead and like that, and sign up for our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. It's youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. I am your host, Brian Engelman. This is the Unhappy Hour, and we're going to be right back with Zak Baris, lifelong Cleveland sports fan and NBA scout, talking a little bit about the Cleveland Browns, sitting at 4-5. 4-5 against the division-leading Bengals, middle of the season after a bye week. What kind of chances do we have? We'll talk about it. Be right back.
You are listening to The New American Media.